Okay, I don't think anybody has objected. So just before we get started, this is a 2-day professional development. So we will, well, Amy Lombrick. So this is a 2-day PD. We'll complete it over the period of today and tomorrow. You guys have file folders that I put in your mailboxes. We'll utilize that mostly tomorrow, but stuck to the front of your folder are just a few sticky notes. You'll probably want those today as well as tomorrow. And you may need not all of them. You may need more. So just kind of be prepared. But you'll use that possibly to note a few materials or a few notes in the teacher's guide in your guide and reading assessment kit. I'm pretty sure everybody has an assessment kit now in your room at this point. We are super lucky to have that situation right now for us. But if you don't, you may want to pair up with someone in your room or in your grade level just for today and tomorrow, just so that you can have that. And then I can run you a copy of one just so you have a whole master. If you don't, let me know.
If we use that digital copy that you sent us?
Yep,
okay.
You absolutely can use the digital copy. It's attached to this PD too, which I'll share out. I just wanted you to be able to make note of some things. So if you want to, just you can keep the PD for notes later if you need anything, or just make notes on something. You're welcome to do that too. All right, so these 2 days are pretty jam-packed with information. So I am going to get started right away. The goal is going to be to get through some information on the first 3 assessments this morning, and then we'll spend the remainder of the time tomorrow and talk about the 4th assessment. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You guys are welcome to, speak out anytime. If you've got questions or any comments that you want to make, you're welcome to do that.
Oh, don't say any comments.
I want you to have questions. Yeah, I know you see them. I want you guys to say, questions if you've got them. I'm going to though kind of keep this moving. So don't feel bad if you have to stop me. All right, so I'm going to present this so that you can see it pretty largely. Can you guys tell me, are you able to see this? Anybody? If not,
I can see it.
Okay, I'll say then speak up because I've got mine on present, so I don't have my screen split to see you guys. So like I said, over the next 2 days, we're going to be discussing the 4 parts of the guided reading assessment. I will share out this PD afterward. If you need a digital copy of the teacher's guide, then you can click on these links here. They're also located in that K-3 pacing guide folder under guided reading and then assessments. So the red book is our K-2 teacher's guide, and then the blue and green book is the 3 to 6, grades 3 to 6 book. So as we go through this PD, I want you just to note that any page numbers that are in red are for K-2. They're going to represent the K-2 book, and then anything that's in blue are going to represent the 3 to 6 book. So that's going to be the page numbers that you're going to want to kind of be shifting to. And, if you want to highlight in your book, or if you want to take notes in your book, or you want to flag it with some of those Post-it notes that are on your file folder, then those are the page numbers you're going to go to. All right. So first and foremost, you all probably want to flip to page 14 in your teacher book there. So on page 14, just for your information, your knowledge, we don't, we in the past couple years have not really gone through this book so heavily. So that's part of what this is. Page 14 is going to give you just a little intro to the 4 steps, those 4 assessments that you'll be taking at each or giving at each bookmark. So steps 1 through 3, which would be that reading interest inventory, the word knowledge inventory, and the comprehension assessment. Those can be given whole group if you choose. And then that 4th assessment is the reading records, and you'll do those individually. So you might want to flag that page to give you, just a little bit more information on each of those and what they are. Page 15, there is the time frame of when you would give each of these assessments. So you're going to give all of these assessments 3 times a year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year, except for the reading interest inventory. We only give that one the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. We don't give that one at the end of the year, just because by then we do have an idea of what our students' reading interest is, and we only have, like a month and a half, 2 months left of school. So we don't do the reading interest at the end of the year assessment. And then that last page, section 16 through 19 in both of your books, that's going to be something you've seen before probably, and that's a calendar breakdown of how you could assess your students within the time frame that we're given. So typically we're given I want to say 15 days to assess, and so it breaks down how you can get all 4 assessments done within a 15-day period. I want to note that we are only getting 9 days for this round of middle of the year assessing. So we want to plan accordingly. You may want to look at that pages 16 to 19 for some suggestions as to how to get all of your assessments done. I know also, though, a lot of you have started to give your reading interest and things like that. So that's good too. That's a time saver. But just for you to note that there is sort of a breakdown of how you can get all the assessments done within our time period. All right, so we're going to go straight into the reading interest inventory, which is step 1. It's that first assessment that we give. And so just as a reminder, the teacher's guide pages here, K-2, you're going to want to kind of be within pages 24 to 29. Feel free to highlight, take notes, flag anything. And then 3rd grade, you're in pages 24 to 28 of your book. So just kind of get there, and you're welcome to, utilize this guide however you want. We're going to watch a quick video on the reading interest inventory, and then we're going to talk about the pieces of information below. I think the sound's going to be loud on this, but you may need to turn up your screens, possibly. Okay, here we go.
The very first step we take when assessing students is to discover their interests as learners and their habits as readers. Research and our years of classroom experience have proven how valuable this information is. What topics do your students love? Nature, outer space, adventure stories and comics? This survey helps you discover how much your students read and which topics and genres they like. You'll use the results to challenge engaged readers and motivate reluctant readers. You can also use this information to plan whole class, small group, and individual lessons, and better stock your classroom library. All the forms you need for this step are available in the Assessment Forms book or online by clicking on Resources. Introduce the survey to your whole class by having a discussion about the benefits of reading books on subjects that excite them. I love to begin this discussion with the book Miss Malarkey Leaves No Reader Behind by Judy Finchler, because the story speaks to this very topic. Are you thinking maybe there's something about those books?
Yeah.
Zoe, what are you thinking? I could tell the light bulb went off, Zoe.
Like, maybe Miss Malarkey is giving them books like the topic, like about a topic they like.
Oh, was that what you were thinking, Peyton? So you had the same thinking as Zoe? Does that make a difference for you when you get a book about a topic you like? Yeah? Next, hand each student a reading interest survey form. Be sure you're using the correct grade level. Even if all of your students can read the questions on their own, it will help them tremendously if you read them aloud. You can also administer the reading interest survey to a smaller group and build in time to really discuss responses with each child. What's your favorite reptile? And why is the lizard your favorite reptile?
I have a pet lizard.
Okay, that makes sense. So you want to learn more about that, don't you? So you can take care of it? For beginning of the year kindergartners or children who are unable to complete the survey in the classroom, we've also provided a home reading interest survey in both English and Spanish. Once students have completed the surveys, you can record your results online in the Step 1 assessment area. For each student, select all the topics of interest marked on his or her survey. Note that the Grade 2 interest survey also includes data on motivation, stamina, and genre preference. And of course, you can also record data by hand on the Reading Interest Survey class profile form. Either way, you'll have the information you need compiled, organized, and easy to access. Now you are ready to study the data you gathered and decide how it will inform your reading instruction. Let's take a look at how I've analyzed data from two students, Jared and Noel. I can see from his lack of responses and his inability to name any favorite books on his survey that Jared, a first grader, is not yet an engaged reader. Clearly, he would benefit from being introduced to books that match his stated interests, bugs and soccer, because we know that students who are interested in what they are reading are motivated to read more. As Jared gets hooked on reading about these topics, I can gather a range of texts that provide healthy challenges for him, because you'll clearly know what your students love to read. Second grader Noelle's survey states that she loves to read and she reads every day. She is a motivated reader. However, Noelle puts a check next to chapter books only. She does not indicate that she has an interest in any other genres. She would benefit from trying a book in another genre for independent reading. I want to broaden her experience with other genres so that she knows she can tackle texts of all types. You'll want to routinely look at the class profile report. If you see that most of your students lack experience with a particular genre, that's a helpful red flag to vary your text selections for guided reading and whole class lessons as well. Whether you're planning an individual or group lesson, you can draw on what you've learned about students' particular reading interests and habits, or what you've learned about the class, to select topics that will really engage readers and texts that will increase their facility across genres. Giving this assessment again at mid-year can help you see how your readers have expanded their horizons. The goal here is to create the conditions for students to read a lot, because research has shown an incredibly strong link between volume of reading and reading achievement.
His friends are getting better readers.
Yeah, what makes that difference? We know, right?
Yeah.
Reading, and more reading. So let's read. The next step, step 2, analyzes students' spelling and decoding skills, which helps you prepare for individual reading conferences.
Okay, so as we all just listened to in that video there, we know that, there are some kids who love to read, and there are also kids who don't really know what they like to read. There are some kids who don't particularly enjoy reading. So by giving that reading interest inventory, we're able to get just a better grip on what our class profile looks like, which students do we need to, increase background knowledge on specific topics, which students need support with selecting books for their book boxes in the classroom. What do we want to share maybe in our IRAs when we're reading in our classroom, when we're giving our lesson plans? Is there an area that our students don't have much background knowledge on that we could use our IRA time to foster that? And so this is just going to give us a great idea of what we need to use to support our students. And then specifically at the guided reading table, also for those kiddos who don't quite enjoy reading or aren't maybe necessarily confident in themselves, we can look at what text to pull at times to make sure that we are dipping into their interest. Over here on the left of this slide here, this is just a quick picture of what your middle of the year assessments look like at the top. Kindergarten, you guys could use the teacher forms, the assessment forms, page 7 to 8 to print this if you wanted a paper copy. First grade, it's 9 to 10. You guys see the page numbers there off to the left, 11 to 12 for second grade. Now, third grade, your guys' middle of the year reading interest inventory is different than your beginning of the year interest inventory. So if you're going to use the paper copy, make sure you're printing off of page 8. And then something that I found interesting, honestly, I never really realized this. And so you may want to flag page 27 or 26, depending on your grade level, in your teacher guide there. is there is a specific script for you to follow when you are administering the teacher or the reading interest inventory. So yeah, the directions are there at the top of the student's paper, like I've screenshotted there for you, but there is actually an entire script that we would want to follow as well. So I encourage you to flag that and use that if you haven't given the reading interest inventory this year yet. And if you have, then we have this knowledge for next year. It's just something that I didn't quite realize either. Let's see, this is taking a second to load. Also, just some troubleshooting tips for when you're giving the reading interest inventory. Pages 28 for K-2 and 27 for grade 3. If you do have any of these types of situations occurring in your class while you're giving the reading interest inventory, then there are some tips for you for how you can support those students. One that I really wanted to point out is the 3 to 6, that middle column or middle row says a student gives minimal information on the survey. When you're inputting this data in the digital reader, you are going to have 5 topics of interest selected by that student in order to avoid a dash in your data. It's going to mark that assessment as incomplete on your end if you don't input 5 topics of interest. So that troubleshooting tip there is just a really important one. You're going to want to double check that your kids have selected 5 topics of interest so that you can be complete on your end. But also you will want to have that friendly, casual conversation with the student to talk more about their hobbies and interests and help them to continue to select, the other 3 or whatever that they needed to select on their survey. Okay. Any questions about reading interest inventory before we move into word knowledge? That one's a pretty simple one. So, all right, I will just delve us right into step 2. And this one, if you've given it before, which many of you have, this one's a little bit more in depth. So the word knowledge inventory, go ahead and flip to these pages here in your text there. We are going to watch another quick video clip from the same teacher on utilizing the word knowledge inventory. And then we're going to talk a little bit about this information below here. So you can go ahead and turn to those pages while I am pulling up this video. Actually think I have it right here. Come on.
Step 2 of our assessment is the Developmental Word Knowledge Inventory. It is a short spelling test that helps you pinpoint each student's word knowledge. We include this test because research shows that in grades K-2, children's spelling achievement predicts their reading achievement. So analyzing how students spell words will tell you a lot about how they read words. The data you get from this step identifies children who are struggling with decoding. You can use this information to make these children top priority when you're ready to begin reading assessment conferences. In addition, the test gives you a class snapshot of students' word knowledge, which will help you to plan the word study portion of your guided reading lessons. All the forms you need for this step are available in the assessment forms book or online by clicking on resources. Introduce the assessment to the class. Hand each student a developmental word knowledge inventory recording sheet. Be sure you're using the correct grade level. It's important to note that the number of words you read aloud from the list will vary according to grade level. To set students at ease, tell them that you want to find out what letters and sounds they already know so you can decide what to teach them in the coming weeks. So I'm going to read you words today, one word at a time. And after I read the word, I want you to say the word with me. So it'll be like tag team. I'll read the word, then you'll say the word. Then I'm going to read the word again and tell you a sentence so that you're sure you know what that word means. And then your job is to spell the word as carefully as you can. Write all the sounds that you hear and think about whether you've seen that word somewhere before. Be sure to give kids plenty of time to process each word they hear and then to write it. Look around the room to make sure each child is finished before moving on to the next word. Number 2 is hit. Say that with me.
Hit.
I hit the baseball out of the park. Hit. Once the test is done, you can record results online in the Step 2 assessment area. For each word spelled incorrectly, mark the missed feature. The online tool instantly creates a class profile as you enter data. Alternately, you can record data by hand on individual student scoring sheets and then on a class profile form. Now you are ready to analyze the data you collected and decide how it will inform your reading instruction. Let's look at how I've analyzed spelling data from a student in first grade, Darius. Darius spells only 5 out of 25 words correctly, so he will be one of the first students I'll meet with for a reading assessment conference. The online report makes it easy for me to see the patterns in his errors. For example, Darius first begins to make a lot of errors spelling short vowels and consonant blends. So when I listen to him read, I will pay extra attention to how he decodes those features. The group report gives me a list of other students who are at the same stage as Darius and need to work on the same skills. When I look at Darius's information in conjunction with the class profile report, I can group him with other children who need practice with short vowels and consonant blends and zero in on those decoding areas during guided reading instruction. Once you've studied your data, it's time to use it to plan instruction that guides students to higher levels of spelling and word knowledge. From the guide section of the teacher's guide, you'll select word study activities based on the specific phonemic awareness skills or phonic elements you want to target during your guided reading lessons. Because this assessment is given 3 times a year, you can track the progress of your students through the spelling stages as the school year goes forward. The next step, Step 3, analyzes students' comprehension skills. This understanding of students' higher level thinking is a crucial step in designing targeted reading lessons that promote students' growth.
All right, so I really liked this video. Something that stood out to me that she said was just that, if our students perform poorly on the word knowledge inventory, then that's a direct correlation with how our students are going to decode when they're reading at the guided reading table or in their reading logs at home, at Daily 5. So we really, really want to catch the kids who are scoring the lowest first and continue assessing them as quickly as we can. The ones who score better on this word knowledge inventory, we can take not our time, but we can put them a little bit further behind in our assessing process, just because we need to get our students with the word knowledge inventory who score low done as quickly as possible so that we can get them going on guided reading groups faster. They need more direct instruction. What I love about the Literacy Footprints digital reader we have now is that, if we recognize these students and we get them assessed the most quickly of the rest of our class, then we're able to put them on one of those video recorded guided reading lessons while we're continuing to assess the other students, just because they need the most support. So this word knowledge inventory is also going to help us guide our word work lessons within our guided reading lessons each day. We have, like she said in the video, the teacher's guide, which gives us some lesson ideas for what we can do depending on the student's spelling stage. We've also now have our Pioneer Valley lesson cards, which give us a really great idea on there for what we can use for word study based on the book that we pick. But another piece of information I do want to share with you today, and you may be aware of it, you may not, is this word study and phonics book that is down here. So this is a book that Jan Richardson and Michelle Dufresne wrote. It specifically focuses on that word study piece of the guided reading lessons, and it gives us all sorts of other ideas and lessons that we can use for that specific group of students. So although we've got that lesson card, we need to be authentic to our students' needs. And if we know we've got students that aren't going to necessarily benefit from that lesson card idea, we can go right into this word study and phonics book and pull activities straight from there. Just like we might adjust the sight words on our lesson cards, we can adjust our word study and phonics activity also. I'm going to show you just really, really fast. If you have this book, I don't own this book, but we can purchase it from Amazon. Say that again.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm thinking back to the last 2 years that we've given this, and especially at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of tiers.
Yes.
So is it absolutely necessary that we give them all of those words, knowing that the whole class stopped at a certain point? Like, is that? I mean, if they're crying and I've had that the last 2 years with them, especially at the beginning of the year, and I'm sure kindergarten.
Yes, definitely kindergarten too. I've seen it with my own eyes a couple times. It does provide a lot of stress on the troubleshooting ideas. Here on the next slide, I'll show you some ideas that they give us for how to support our students when they feel that way. We do want to give all if we can, but it doesn't have to be done all in one setting. You can do this in small group. You can also stop and go at a later date. Try again. I've also got there's some other troubleshooting ideas on there that I'll show you here in just a second. I want you guys to know that we have access to this word study and phonics book, though. It's in our balanced literacy folder in the staff folder under guided reading. It's also linked to this PD, which I'll share out. So in this Jan's word work lessons, it's all of these graphic organizers and materials that we have access to always for guided reading. But then there are also the chapters of each book scanned in at the bottom here for you. So I just wanted to show you like a quick example. If we have students at the early level, and we know based on our word knowledge that the student needs, let's say, blending support. I'm sorry, I'm just going to scroll down here really fast, okay? Then down into the chapter, there are multiple lessons that you can use to support the student. So here's lesson 1. Let's say we know based on our data from our class profile that our students need support with these digraphs here. It's going to tell you what type of activity it is that you could put on your lesson plan template. It's going to give you the directions. It's going to tell you what cards to pull. And this is the activity you could do instead to support your students if this is something they need. There are multiple activities that you can do for that same skill. This one has to do with making words with our magnetic letter trays, our boxes. If you feel like, no, my students, they don't need the support with say these initial digraphs, but maybe I'm more concerned with my final digraph, SH. It's okay to skip around on these lessons and go just to specifically what your students need and begin with those activities. So I just love it because this is that real quick word study piece that we do whenever we're in our guided reading lessons. And this is more ideas for what you can do. And it's very, very specific to your students' needs based on that class profile. So I want you to know it's there. And I will share it out with you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
On the word inventory, so I know Ashley asked about the tiers and things. Is it okay just to say to the kids, if you don't know how to spell it, that's okay. If you know a sound, write down whatever sound you know.
Yep. It's absolutely okay. I know that this is a stressful one. It's definitely much more in depth than the reading interest inventory. And students do feel nervous. It's a spelling test, and that makes them nervous. So yes, you can tell them that. Remember what she said in the video. I just want to know how you can spell these words so that I can decide what I'm going to teach with you next. So this helps me know. You can reassure them that way also. This is not for a grade. This is just helping me know where I need to go with my lesson planning next. You can have those conversations with the kiddos. Take note that we do need to be using the updated list, which this updated list was given out pretty much right when we started guided reading. Some of us had older books and some of us received the new books with the updated list in it, but we want to make sure that everybody knows, don't make copies out of your teacher forms book, go ahead and just print them right off of the K-3 pacing guide folder. On that assessment itself, let's see if I can pull one of these up real quickly here. It's going to tell you how many words to give at the specific time of year that it is. So, middle of the year, end of the year kindergarten, you should only be giving words 1 through 10 on that. Don't try to give them all of the words on this assessment, because that is going to stress them out. If you want to give the words, you can, but just know what you input into the system, into our digital reader, should only be words 1 through 10. If we input more than we're supposed to based on this information here, then it's going to skew our data for the district. It's going to skew that student-specific data. It might pull them out of rank for, some sort of an intervention like Waterford or Rise or something like that we would use to support our students. It really does skew our data. So we really want to make sure that we're only inputting the number that we give. I would encourage you just to give this amount, because you're going to eventually give all of the words that your students need, by the end of that year. But just pay special attention to it. It's actually on the piece of paper for you. There is the script here in kid-friendly language for what you're going to say to them. And yes, you can reassure them, okay? But just make sure that what you have for your word list that you're giving them is this updated one. There were just a few words that were different, and it really messed up our input into the system when we didn't realize this, I think.
I'm sorry, where do we find the updated one?
So it's linked here in our, this PD I'll share to you. It's also in the K-3 shared drive folder in that guided reading section.
Okay, it's the guided reading section. Oh, updated. Okay, cool.
You find it? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
So
Awesome.
just make sure you're giving that one. Now, I know some of you guys too, or at least I've heard a little bit of conversation about some of you wanting to use the virtual teachers digital word knowledge inventory. That's totally fine too. I'm sure that those are the updated word lists. So if you're wanting your kids to type them and answer them online, you can. I know I'm thinking for the younger grades though, you probably just want to do the handwritten on the inventory sheet. So just make sure you print the correct one.
Oh, the other thing, Xavier is going to be out for like the remainder of January.
Okay, so we'll want to get online with him and we'll assess him virtually if we can.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and I can work through that with you. Just reach out to me and we'll get something figured out.
Okay, thank you.
Just for your knowledge again, you might want to flag these pages for how to administer. There's that specific script again, which I wasn't ever really aware of. It's kind of interesting. And then pages 34 to or 32, those are going to help you with scoring and how to find the spelling stages. But when you input the data into Digital Reader, it is going to, score everything for you, and it will automatically give you your student's class profile. So you don't need to spend a lot of time with scoring them manually unless you really want to. But I just wanted you to know that it's there in that book. So here's those troubleshooting tips I was talking about. I'm thinking here on the K-2 side there, let's say you have a student who has weak fine motor skills. You can use the magnetic letters or letter tiles instead versus having them handwrite it out if that's stressful for them. Or if they're having difficulty spelling the words, it's okay to let them just take a break, go do something else, read a book, and then you can meet with them individually or in a smaller group so that you can work at a slower pace with them. The same thing up there. If they're only getting words 1 through 5 correct, just take a break. It's okay. It doesn't have to be done all at one time. Give them 6 through 10 at a later time if they're the K-2 or K-2 students. Now I see over on the 3rd grade one, if your student misses more than 5 words in a row before word 20, stop the assessment at 20 words. So that was an interesting one also to me. I feel like I would want to look specifically at how many words you guys give 3rd grade, middle of the year, end of the year. I would think that we would want to kind of talk to Haley Mulligan about what that would look like on our data if we are supposed to be giving more words than that. But that for us, even if we say we did give the extra words, that's definitely information for us that's a student we really want to be working with as quickly as possible. So does that help you guys a little bit? Oops. Hopefully. Sorry about that. I just totally X out of there. I want to show you too, once you do input into the digital reader, here's an example of what you'll see and how you can use that word study book or, your lesson cards. So as you group your students, here's an example of a group of 4 students who were grouped together. It's going to give you their profile. Here's their spelling stages based on the data that goes into the digital reader. There was 1 kid at early phonetic. 3 of the kids are at phonetic stage. It's going to tell you specifically where you need to start with this group of students to support them. Okay. And so I just think it's neat for you to be able to see and know that it's there if you aren't aware, you maybe forgot. It's there, and you can always get into that digital reader to look at your groups because it's compiled all the data for you as soon as you input it. All right, I'm going to move us on to step 3. My goal is to try to get through this entire thing. I don't really think we will. Gosh, it's already 8:45, isn't it? Maybe we'll try to go for about 5 minutes. I think what we'll do is talk about the assessments today that you'll be giving for middle of the year. And we'll talk about this information over here, why we give it, and then maybe we can watch the video tomorrow. So for K-2, your guys' comprehension assessment, that step 3 is a read aloud. So here are your assessments. You can print those right out of the teacher forms, or you can get them on the digital document that we have. 3rd grade, the students read this assessment on their own. And you do have 2 assessments. One's the fiction and one's the nonfiction. Again, pages 40 and 38 are going to give you a specific script for you to share with students as you're giving this assessment, something good to flag. After we give this comprehension assessment, it's going to help us zero in on the needs of our students as far as those 6 main categories. And so you'll at times see these abbreviations, and this is going to tell you when it's listed that the student needs extra support in that area of comprehension. So vocabulary, key details, character analysis, inferencing, main idea, and evaluate. And so then our lesson plans that we're given give us, that those lessons we can choose specifically for the students based on, what lesson it's going to focus on within that book. So you can use the lesson guide, or, we just by knowing what our students need as teachers, we're always able to shift a book to make it be whatever teaching point we truly need it to be most of the time. So looking at that class profile and seeing what your students need is going to help guide you in that way that you teach it. It's also, once you have your data on all of your students, it's going to let you see, oh, wow, most of my students really continue to need character analysis support, for example. So when you do your IRAs, throw some of that conversation in as the class so that you can continue to practice that as a whole group. It just makes you aware of your students' whole group needs, or, those individual small group needs that you could have an instructional assistant go in and support with. I will show you, I'm going to go back here one slide and show you also on that class profile. It's going to tell you, again, this group of 4 kids, the main area of need would be key details, evaluating, and inferencing. So you might want to focus on those skills first at the guided reading table as you are working with those students. Okay. I think I'm going to probably stop us there. I know I want you guys to have a few minutes before we get going with our students today. So we will watch this video tomorrow and we'll look at some troubleshooting tips for the comprehension assessment. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or anything like that before we stop for today? No. pretty cut, dry, and simple for the most part, but I did want to answer a lot of, maybe questions
Hillary?
the new teachers have.
I will also have a student out for quarantine, so will you touch base with me and Sam about the virtual assessments?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for telling me that.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a great Tuesday, and I will see you around.
Thank you.
Bye.